The click of the key turning in the lock was always a comforting sound, signaling the end of a long day and the promise of warmth and familiarity within. But tonight, as I stepped over the threshold of our home, the usual sense of peace was replaced by an unsettling tension in the air. Setting down the bags of groceries, I paused, listening intently. There was a murmur coming from the bedroom, a low hum of voices that shouldn't have been there. My heart quickened its pace, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. Drawing in a shaky breath, I tiptoed down the hallway, my footsteps silent against the carpeted floor. As I reached the bedroom door, I pressed my ear against the wood, straining to make out the words beyond. "Can't keep doing this, Leon," came a voice, tinged with frustration. It was Leon's voice, but there was an edge to it that I had never heard before. "I know, Lara, but you have to be patient," Leon's voice replied, filled with a sense of urgency. "Once everything is settled, we'll be free to be together." My heart sank at the mention of Lara's name, a name that shouldn't have held any significance in my marriage. Anger bubbled up within me, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the conversation unfolding on the other side of the door. "We can't keep living like this," Lara insisted, her voice wavering with uncertainty. "What if she finds out?" "She won't," Leon reassured her, though his tone lacked conviction. "Bella is too wrapped up in her own world to notice anything." The mention of my name sent a jolt of pain through me, but I remained rooted to the spot, unable to tear myself away from their conversation. What were they talking about? And why did it sound like they were plotting something behind my back? With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I realized that I was about to confront a truth that I wasn't sure I was ready to face. Risking everything for this, Lara's voice was tinged with desperation, her hands wringing nervously in her lap. "We have to take the chance," Leon replied, his tone firm but tinged with doubt. "I can't keep living a lie." My stomach churned at his words, the reality of their betrayal sinking in with each passing moment. But I remained rooted to the spot, unable to tear myself away from the scene unfolding before me. "What about Bella?" Lara's voice wavered, filled with uncertainty. "What if she finds out?" "She won't," Leon reassured her, though his voice lacked conviction. "We'll be careful. Besides, once everything is settled, we can finally be together." With my heart pounding in my chest, I stood outside the bedroom door, grappling with the devastating truth that lay just beyond. The voices of Leon and Lara, once filled with secrecy, now echoed loudly in my mind, their betrayal searing through me like a hot iron. Summoning every ounce of courage I had left, I pushed open the door and stepped into the dimly lit room. Leon and Lara turned towards me, their faces contorted in shock as they realized they had been discovered. "Bella, Leon began, his voice faltering as he struggled to find the words to explain his deceit. But I held up a hand, cutting him off before he could utter another syllable. "Save it, Leon," I said, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. "I heard everything." Lara's eyes widened in panic, her hands fluttering nervously at her sides. "Bella, please," she pleaded, her voice tinged with desperation. "It's not what you think." I fixed her with a steely gaze, my jaw clenched in determination. "Oh, I think it's exactly what I think," I replied, my voice dripping with scorn. "You two have been plotting behind my back, planning to steal everything I hold dear." Leon opened his mouth to protest, but I silenced him with a glare. "Don't bother trying to deny it, Leon," I said, my voice cutting like a knife. "I heard every word you said." The room fell silent, the weight of their betrayal hanging heavy in the air. But as the reality of their deceit settled over me, I knew that I couldn't let them get away with it. It was time to take back control of my life, starting with our home. As the weight of Leon and Lara's betrayal pressed down on me, I felt a surge of determination rising within me. I couldn't let them dictate my fate any longer. With each passing moment, my resolve hardened, and I knew that I had to take matters into my own hands. Quietly, I turned on my heel and slipped out of the room, leaving Leon and Lara to stew in the wake of their deceit. Leon approached me. His eyes, bloodshot and weary, avoided mine. Shame flickered across his face, quickly replaced by a strained defensiveness. It's not what it seems, Bella. Lara, it's complicated. Complicated. I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Is that what you call destroying a marriage, a family? Complicated? Leon flinched at my words, his eyes pleading for understanding. Please, Bella, he pleaded, let me explain. There's nothing left to explain, Leon, I said, my voice steady despite the tremors running through me. This is over. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing alone in the living room, the echo of my words hanging heavy in the air. I knew this wouldn't be easy. There would be legal battles, financial decisions, and the heartbreak of navigating a new reality for myself and the children. But in that moment, as I walked away from the wreckage of our marriage, a different emotion began to stir within me. Resolve. I would rebuild my life, brick by fragmented brick, and this time, I would build it on my own terms, a future where trust, respect, and love were not mere words, but the foundation on which I would stand strong. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity, fueled by a potent cocktail of grief and determination. With the help of a fierce yet empathetic lawyer, Sarah, I navigated the murky waters of separation and divorce. One afternoon, amidst the chaos of paperwork and emotional turmoil, I received a call from an unexpected source. Leon. My heart hammered against my ribs as I picked up the phone, bracing myself for another empty apology. I don't want to lose you completely. A sad smile played on my lips. You already did, Leon, I said gently. But that doesn't mean we have to lose ourselves. With those words, I hung up the phone. The life that unfolded after was far from easy. Juggling single parenthood with a newfound career path tested my resilience, but with each sunrise, a sense of strength loomed within me. The apartment, once echoing with the ghosts of what used to be, transformed into a sanctuary filled with the laughter and warmth of my children. One evening, as we sat huddled together on the sofa, reading a bedtime story, my daughter, Sarah, paused, her eyes wide with curiosity. Mommy, she asked, why are we living without Daddy now? I smiled, gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. This, my little one, I said, my voice filled with love, is our new beginning. 5 years had painted their strokes on the canvas of my life, transforming the raw edges of betrayal into a tapestry woven with resilience and newfound peace. My days, once haunted by the echo of shattered promises, were now filled with the symphony of laughter echoing from my children's room. One brisk autumn afternoon, as the wind whispered secrets through the leaves, the doorbell chimed. A wave of surprise washed over me as I saw Lara standing at the threshold. Her fiery hair, once vibrant, bore strands of silver, mirroring the lines etched around her eyes. Hesitation hung in the air like a question mark. Bella, she started, her voice hesitant. I apologize for intruding. Years of carefully constructed walls threatened to crumble under the weight of the past. Taking a deep breath, I stepped aside. May I come in? She pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. Uncertainty clouded my judgment, but a flicker of understanding nudged me to open the door a little wider. She entered, her eyes searching every corner of the space that once held remnants of their imagined future. This place looks lovely, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Thank you, I replied, my voice a calm counterpoint to the storm brewing within. Silence descended, heavy with unspoken words and unspoken apologies. Finally, Lara spoke, her voice trembling. I know you probably hate me, she confessed, her shoulders slumped in defeat. Hate's a strong word, I replied, the truth somewhere between indifference and a faint echo of hurt. But understanding doesn't erase what happened. Lara sighed, her eyes filled with regret. I never meant to break your family apart, she said, the conviction in her voice leaving me unsure whether to believe her or not. Perhaps not, I replied, choosing words carefully. But you played a part in it nonetheless. Another silence descended, punctuated only by the distant honking of cars and the rhythmic click of the grandfather clock in the corner. I wanted to say I'm sorry," Lara said finally, her voice barely audible. "Sorry for the pain I caused you, for the choices I made." I looked at her, a woman stripped bare by the passage of time, facing the consequences of her actions. In that moment, I felt a surge of something akin to pity, a flicker of understanding for the human frailty that had entangled us all. "Thank you," I said simply. Lara gave a curt nod and turned towards the door. Just as she was about to leave, she stopped, turning back to me. "Your children are beautiful," she said, her voice softer now, almost wistful. "They seem happy." "They are," I replied, a proud smile gracing my lips. "And so am I." With that, she left, her footsteps fading into the cool evening air. I stood at the door for a moment, watching the darkness swallow her whole. The encounter, unexpected and brief, had stirred something within me, a quiet acknowledgement of the past, a confirmation of how far I had come. I turned back towards the warm glow of the living room, the sound of children's laughter filling the air. My life, though not without its challenges, was filled with love, laughter, and a sense of purpose. The morning sun would rise again, just as it always did, casting a new light on a future that was once shrouded in uncertainty. It was a future I was building on my own terms, a future filled with the promise of a new dawn. The crisp morning air carried the familiar scent of coffee and freshly baked cinnamon rolls, Sarah's latest culinary experiment. I watched for the smile as my daughter, now a confident young woman, bustled around the kitchen, her laughter echoing through the apartment. 5 years have flown by, each sunrise a testament to my resilience. The single-parent life had been a whirlwind, demanding every ounce of strength and resourcefulness I possessed. But with each hurdle overcome, with each late-night study session and scraped knee kiss, a profound sense of accomplishment blossomed within me. My career, once put on hold, had flourished. I had secured a position at a prestigious design firm, my creativity finding an outlet once again. The days were long, but the satisfaction of building something from the ground up, something solely mine, was a reward in itself. Leaving the office, I decided to take a detour from my usual route, drawn by an inexplicable impulse. I ended up at the park where we used to take the children to play. There, on a familiar bench, sat Leon, his weathered face edged with lines of worry. "Bella," he said, his voice raspy with surprise. "Hi, Leon," I replied, my voice neutral. An awkward silence followed, broken only by the chirping of birds and the distant laughter of children. "How are you?" he finally asked, his voice laced with a hint of hesitation. "I'm fine," I answered honestly. "Busy, but happy." He nodded, a flicker of pain crossing his eyes. "Lara and I didn't work out. I didn't offer condolences. His choices were his own, and the consequences had been his to bear." "I see," I said simply. Another silence stretched between us, heavier this time, filled with all the unspoken words and unfulfilled promises. "Look, Bella," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "I know I messed up. I hurt you and the kids in ways I can't take back. I wanted you to know I'm sorry." I looked at him, this man who had once been my best friend, my lover, my husband. The anger and resentment I had once held had softened, replaced by an acceptance of the past and a focus on the future. "I appreciate you apologizing, Leon," I said, my voice gentle yet firm. "But apologies don't erase the past. We both have to live with the choices we made." He nodded, his gaze dropping to his hands. "I understand. I wish things could be different. You and I both," I replied, a touch of sadness tinging my voice. We sat in silence for a while, lost in our own thoughts, two strangers tethered by a shared past. Then I rose to my feet. "I need to get going," I said, offering a small smile. "It was good seeing you, Leon. Take care of yourself." He looked up, a flicker of hope fleeting across his eyes. "And you, Bella. Please take care." As I walked away, the weight of the past seemed to lift a little. The encounter with Leon had served as a final punctuation mark on a closed chapter, allowing me to move forward with a clearer heart and a renewed sense of purpose. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. It was a new dawn, and I knew with unwavering certainty that the best was yet to come. The future stretched before me, an open canvas waiting to be filled with the vibrant colors of my own story, a story of resilience, love, and the unwavering promise of new beginnings.